All right, welcome to call number one, module number one of the Breakthrough Coaching Certification Program. I have been anticipating this for a long time, and I can feel it in the soul that's barely being contained inside my body right now. How excited I am! I'm feeding off of a lot of your energy and a lot of the comments leading up to this. People that have taken the program before and they're taking it again, and people who heard about the program and they want to jump on this time, and people who just heard about it like 20 minutes ago and they want to jump in. And I can tell you that this is my life's work. And I say that because it brings the best out of me. And what I love about this community and about this content is that it attracts people who are geeks about personal development and about bettering human behavior, improving our habits, improving all areas of our lives, and more than that, helping other people do the same. That's why I love this group so much. No matter where you're from, here's what I know about you. You not only want to show up to consume this information for yourself, you want to learn some of these tools so that you can help other people as well, whether it's your kids, for those of you that are parents, your team members, if you have a business with contractors or team members, or if you want to start your own coaching business and you want to start attracting clients, or anybody that you just come in contact with, over the course of your journey on this planet. That's why I love you guys so much. There's this, what I call this flow through energy, where you want this information so you can help others. And I honor that and acknowledge all of you for who you are, because I've done so many programs over the course of my 11 years in direct sales. I'm sorry, direct sales, yes, but in personal development in general. And I've participated in a ton of programs, and there is an observable, tangible difference between people who show up with that flow through kind of energy that want to help others and people that show up with just wanting to help themselves. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not placing a values judgment on that or making that invalid or illegitimate or anything like that, but it's just different, is all I can say. And this flow through kind of energy lights me up to no end. And that's why I love all of you. I love this content because this content has changed my life, right? I did not create most of this content. I did not create. I just have experienced it. Now, some of the content I did create, it doesn't matter that you know which, although I'll probably tell you if I think about it, but I love the content for what it does, not because I created it, not because, my ego is behind it, but because of what it does, because of what it's done for me, and because of what I've seen it do for countless other people. This is life-changing content. We're going to dive so deep into human psychology. We're going to dive so deep into the brain, how this machine called our bodies, called our soul, our spirit, how it all works together with our emotions and our beliefs and our behaviors, and how can we understand all of this so that when we apply it to ourselves as well as in our leadership or coaching, we can provide fundamental transformations. You'll hear the term, as the slide shows and as your handout shows, neurotransformation. That's what this is all about. We want to provide neurotransformation to everybody that we possibly can. And I'm going to dive deeper into that, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a off the cuff excitement, and hopefully you are going to get so much out of this program. If you're anything like me, then when you dive into this and when you start experiencing it and applying it to your life and teaching it to other people, you're just going to be lit on fire, and you're going to want to teach everybody, and you're going to want to talk about this to everybody. And what I'm excited about is the community that you've just entered into. Right now, we've got a relatively small community, a little over 100 people, probably close to 150 people that have decided to jump into this. Now, I'm not saying, obviously there's not tons and tons and millions of people out there, but as far as my community, there's a relatively small group that are so engaged and so committed to this work. And I was talking with a friend of mine just a few days ago. The value of that kind of support system cannot have a price tag put on it. To know that you've got literally hundreds of people in this particular community going through this program, well over 100 people that are willing to help, that want to study, that want to coach, that want to be coached, is priceless. And so you really stepped into a community of like unlimited coaching and support. And I can tell you that this doesn't ever have to end, right? I mean, I've been in this game for about 11 years. I've been doing this kind of stuff for about 7. And I can tell you, like specifically teaching people how to coach. And I can tell you that there are people that are still lifelong friends or still connected with each other, still working on this kind of stuff from the very beginning, from 7 years ago. And that's really unique and very uncommon. So if you are committed to getting the most out of this program, stay connected, stay in the conversation, right? And when you do that, what's available to you is literally something that you cannot currently fathom. The possibilities, the goals that you can achieve, what comes out of you, the stuff that you have inside of you that you either never touched or you forgot you had inside of you, can come out. And the effect that that can have on other people, it just can't be put into words. And the joy that you can experience and the peace that you can create for yourself, for other people, the models that you can create for your children, for other people that are watching you. I could go on and on and on, and that's not my intention to do this entire webinar off the cuff about what I think about this material, but I just wanted to give you a welcome. I wanted to give you my sincere, heartfelt welcome, and I want you to strap on your seatbelt because we're going to go quick. We're going to go deep. We are going to just do everything that we possibly can to make this a life-changing experience that alters the course of your future. That's my humble intention. All right. So with that, let me go through a little bit of housekeeping here. Actually, let me go through a few of these comments. So Jamie from Pennsylvania, can't wait to learn the skills of influence. Carrie from North Dakota. Cupcake, you were referring to what I said earlier. Cindy from Oregon, I want to learn how to encourage my teammates and be present. That's awesome. Mary says, I want to learn how to fix what's inside of me holding me back and learn how to help others do the same. That's one of the things that you're in for, is like a life coaching experience personally that you've probably never experienced before. And I'm super pumped to hear about that. Caitlin is near Mexico City. Fantastic. Tools that she can use to go deeper with her clients. That's awesome. Melissa's in Florida. I'm looking to learn and experience more to help me be a better guide and a better coach. Excellent. Carol in Ohio, I want to gain better communication skills. Oh, that's one of the things that I love the most, is talking about and teaching communication, because it's everything when it comes to personal relationships. Kamari says, thanks for not being in the bathroom when you do the webinar. I don't know if that's referring to something. Have you ever been on a webinar where I was actually in the bathroom, or maybe you were in a webinar where somebody else was in the bathroom? I will say that I've never been in a bathroom while doing the webinar, but I will receive that, Kamari. Thank you very much. Cindy says, I want to encourage family members and current team members to go to work. Willie, I want to know what you are doing eating cupcakes. Yes, no, I'm not. I didn't eat it. It's still on the table. Sheila's from North Carolina. Thank you all for wishing happy anniversary and happy birthday. I appreciate it. Roxana says, I want to find out more about myself, potential team members, etc. So I'm not going to go through all the rest of these comments, but I just wanted you to hear from several people, because there's so many different perspectives, right? And I just kind of want to get you sort of introduced to each other. You're going to do a lot more connecting, obviously, on Facebook, and I encourage you to reach out to each other, individually in between calls, etc. But that's yeah. So I just wanted to see a lot of your names, because I've grown to know and love so many of you as well. So let's get into this program, and I'm going to first start out with a little bit of housekeeping here. So first of all, even before I get into the slides here, Everything that you need is going to be delivered to you in two ways. One, everything is going to be delivered to you in emails. So when I send you the emails for reminders and for replays or announcements or what have you, I'm going to have all the links that you need. You're going to be able to download handouts directly from the emails. There'll be links taking you to the Facebook group. There'll be links directly linking to the video replays. Everything you can possibly want will be in the emails, or everything will also be in the Facebook group. So the handouts are going to be in the files section. If you're on the computer, up in the top bar, there's a link for files. If you're accessing it on mobile, it doesn't work that way. You got to, and it depends on where you're accessing it, whether you're using the app or whether you're using the your internet browser, etc. So I'm not going to give you a full training on that, but there's a place where you can click through. It's not as easy to find, but you can click through and find files. I will set up an event for all the archives once this call is done. And so you will be taken care of on the Facebook group and via email. If you ever have any questions about where anything is, post on Facebook and people will probably respond and help you even before I will. Okay. So, and if there's anything that you want out of this program that you're not being delivered, please ask me. This is a co-creation process. I want you to be happy. I want you to be fulfilled. I want you to be excited. And I want you to contribute, right? I hold with sacredness your personal journey and your perspective. So there are no thoughts that are not valid. There are no questions that are dumb. There's nothing that you could share with me that I won't really appreciate. So please share, because this course is about all aspects of human behavior. Okay. So how do you maximize this course? This is based on my experience of going through a bunch of courses like this and leading a bunch of courses like this, and other people who went through this exact course before and the feedback that I've gotten from them. So the first thing is hire a not hire. I mean, hire a coach is something separate, obviously. That's important too. That's, one of the reasons why we are here is to talk about the importance of coaching. But for this program, you don't have to hire anybody. For this program, I want you to get a partner coach. Now, it might kind of feel like you're hiring each other, and that's fine. You're hiring each other with energy, right? But not with money. Having a partner coach go through this program with you is going to be really important, because there are going to be times when I want you to practice exercises, and for you to have a designated partner coach is going to be fantastic, so that you can just call them up or text them and say, hey, do you want to work on that exercise? Or if you have questions about the content, materials, whatever, it's going to be really valuable for you to have a partner coach. Some people have gotten more than one partner coach, and that's okay too. If you want to be in more than one, you want to have like a little triad or a group of 4 people or something like that, that's fine. However you connect is great, but please don't go through this thing yourself. I don't want you to have any kind of excuse, whether it's because you're in a different country or you're in a different time zone, or this is the first time you've ever gone through this program and you're nervous that you're going to make yourself look dumb, or you've been through 10 of these programs before and you're also nervous that you're going to make yourself look dumb, or you're nervous that everybody else is going to be dumb, or whatever the BS excuses and stories are that you're telling yourself as to why you should not have a partner coach and accountability partner. Don't listen to that. All right. And I can tell you, if the people that went through round 1 were visible to you and I asked them to raise their hands if they agree with what I'm saying, I'm positive every single one of them would have their hands raised. And some of them will have their hands raised now because they didn't do it the first time. So get a partner coach. I am not going to be responsible for matchmaking, so I'm not going to give you a partner coach. I want you to reach out and attract a partner coach. And I want you to reach out to people individually. I don't want you to just make a post in the group that says, hey, I want a partner coach. Maybe some of you have already done that. Some people do right away. But don't, and it's okay if you do, but don't only make a group post and then a few days later go, hey, nobody reached out to me, therefore that's a confirmation from the universe that I'm supposed to do this on my own. No. That just means that nobody reached out to you yet, and you should reach out to people individually. Now, if you reach out to 5 people individually and nobody has responded to you or you haven't connected with a partner coach, then go ahead and email me and I will help those of you who have tried but haven't been successful in finding a partner. But don't make that your first thing, because I will ask you, which 5 people have you reached out to yet? And if you don't have an answer that satisfies me, I will not support you. I won't enable you. Okay. So get a partner coach. Um, yes, so it's very similar to having an accountability partner, Roxanne. It's just it's an accountability partner for this particular program, and we're going to do a bunch of coaching back and forth, right? Okay, so next bullet here. Use the Facebook group. I already talked about that a little bit. There's going to be so much value in that group. I want you to post any comments that you have. If there's anything that hits you really hard during these sessions, go ahead and post that out to the group. If there are any questions that you have about the content or about how to apply the content in your life or with clients or with team members or any of those kinds of things, use the Facebook group. I promise you, you are stepping into a world of support and brilliance, right? I am not the only one in this community that has amazing experience that can help you. And I will almost always, if you try to message me directly via email or Facebook or text, I will almost always say, post that in the group because I want everybody to benefit from the discussion. If you have a comment or a question, I can almost guarantee that somebody else does too. Barb says, I can't find the files for the handouts. Barbara, please post that in the group right now and somebody will help you and somebody will just link the file section for you, or you can also find the email and get it that way. Next thing, questions, ask them constantly, consistently, repeatedly. Ask every question that comes to you. Ask it in the Facebook group first. If it's private, super personal, or whatever, you can certainly send it in to me. I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to respond to each and every one immediately. I might do like a Facebook Live with questions and answers or whatever. But I love any question about human behavior. So anything you have, trust me, I'm going to light up talking about it. But get your questions answered. This is one of the things that holds most people back is they just sort of sit. You know, if you've ever played double dutch, if you could see me right now, if my webcam was on, you could see me doing that little like rotating thing with my hands, right? Like waiting for the rope to be in the perfect position before I jump inside of it, right? And then I start jumping over it. Most people do that for their entire lives, just waiting for it to be the right timing. And while they're waiting for it to be the right timing, everything is passing them by. And the longer they wait, the more likely that they'll never decide the timing is right. And so most people spend the majority of their lives waiting to get ready. And that will never get you to your goals. It'll never get you to your dreams. It'll never allow you to achieve anything significant in your life by waiting, right? So I don't want you to have that mentality with anything in this course. I want you, and trust me, I am a teacher at the core. That's who I am. And I love having questions. During these webinars, when you're on live, if you have a question about the content, go ahead and ask me directly, but also know there's a lot of people posting in this and I won't intentionally skip over anybody. If I don't get to your question on the webinar, it's not because I saw it and I chose not to answer it because I don't like you or I think it's dumb. It's because I didn't see it, right? So I'm going through and scrolling through a lot of stuff. Most of the time, whenever we haven't taken a lot of time on the webinars, I'll open it up at the end for a Q&A session and at least allow you to ask some kinds of questions. I might put a pin in it and want to give a deeper answer later, or I might answer it right there. But questions, it's the only way to get any knowledge on this planet. And unfortunately, most of us at some point in time in our lives, we've been programmed that asking questions means we're stupid. Asking questions is a sign of weakness, and asking questions is just simply something that we shouldn't do. And that's not okay to have that belief about life, because asking questions is the only way you obtain knowledge. So in this environment, don't show up that way. If you show up that way in other areas of your life, that's great. But in this environment, do not show up that way. And then slowly stop showing up that way in other areas of your life as well. All right. Next thing is don't stress. Okay. I don't want you to stress about anything. Some of you are brand new to coaching. Some of you have been coaching for a long, long time. Some of you are going to witness some of the posts and online activity of other people in the group, and you're going to see people selling products. You're going to see people doing Facebook Lives. You're going to see people doing webinars or doing videos, and you're going to see people that if you compare yourself to, you might make yourself feel really small and insignificant. But I promise you, everybody has their own role in this community. And sometimes you're going to look at other people as your teachers because they are a little bit ahead of you. Sometimes you're going to look at other people as your students because you're a little bit ahead of them. Sometimes you're going to look side to side and realize these particular people are walking right along with you at the same pace as you. But I don't want you to be comparing yourself. I don't want you to be creating stress. I don't want you to be judging yourself about anything at all. Now, I could say that about life in general, but let's talk about this program. I don't want you to stress out about missing the live calls. I don't want you to stress out if you're taking this live. I don't want you to stress out about not doing all the homework. I don't want you to stress out about not keeping up. I don't want you to stress out about anything related to this program. That doesn't mean I don't want you to care. I don't want you to stress out. I don't want you to burn yourself out with self-abuse and judgment, okay? Because I've never known a situation where self-abuse improves anything or anyone. So I'm not saying don't keep up. I'm not saying don't do the work. I'm not saying don't get a partner. I'm not saying don't do any of those things that are going to set you up to succeed. What I'm saying is if you haven't or when you don't beat yourself up about it because that's not going to help you get back on track, right? So I don't want you to stress out about anything. Having said that, I do want you to set yourself up to win. And one of the ways you can win with this particular course, because we're going to go deep, these live calls are happening quick, right? And I don't expect everybody, I don't even expect most people to have all this time in the middle of every single week to go through all the live calls. But let me talk momentarily about human psychology with programs like this. When you're in a program like this and there are live calls, what happens most of the time is people are super excited. They jump on the first one, maybe the second one, maybe the third, fourth, fifth one. But at a certain point, they can't keep up with the live calls and they miss one. As soon as somebody misses a live call, if they wanted to be on the calls live, if that was one of their intentions from the get-go, as soon as they miss a live call, they know they're now behind. Nobody likes to feel like they're behind. And then the next call shows up. If they miss the second one, then they're going to feel like they're twice as far behind. The chances of that person showing up live ever again or even completing the program are dismal. Now, I'm saying that because I'm not saying that because that's what I want you to experience. I'm saying that because that's human nature, and I want you to not experience that, right? One of the ways you can not experience that is, along with not stressing out, like I was saying before, is schedule your time. Schedule your time for all the calls that you can make, and schedule your time to do the work, and schedule your time to listen to the replays of the calls that you don't make live, for those of you going through it live, or the calls that you want to listen to again. If it's in your schedule, it's more likely to be done. But if you tell yourself, I'm going to get to that replay as soon as I have the time. When was the last time you just tripped and fell into 90 minutes of free time? You're like, I don't know what in the world I'm going to do with myself. I'm just going to sit here for 90 minutes and just breathe and stare. And then after this 90 minutes of free time is up, then I'll re-engage in my life. That'll, of course, never happen. You have to create room for it. And I'm saying all of this stuff not because I've got this huge ego and I think that you need to, consume my information. I'm saying this because all of you join this program for some reason that's special to you, and I want to protect that reason. So I want you to set yourself up to win as much as you possibly can. And finally, on that note, you'll get out of this whatever you put into it. If you're listening to these things while you're doing a bunch of other stuff and your left ear is listening in while your right ear is doing all the other things that you are on the to-do list, or you're parenting while you're doing this stuff, or you're just doing a bunch of other stuff, you're not going to get as much out of it. Now, of course, I'm not saying just stop everything and all the other roles in your life, but protect this intention as much as you possibly can. And if all you can do is listen in while you're doing other things, great, but you're not going to get what's possible to get unless you dive in, right? So go ahead and do all that stuff and multitask and all that if you want, but make time to actually go in and do the work. Don't be just a passive observer unless that's all you want. If that's all you want, that's fine. If you just want the intellectual knowledge, you just kind of want to window shop, that's fine. But if you want a transformational experience and if you want the skills to create transformation for other people, you got to jump in, right? You got to get on the field. You can't do that from the stands. So that's my housekeeping and my suggestions about how you can join this program at the deepest levels, or engage rather, not just join, at the deepest levels. So with all of that being said, let's dive into module number 1. This is going to be a lot of the foundation for everything that we talk about through all of these modules, right? So we're going to talk about what coaching is and what it's not, what's transformational coaching, what's neurotransformational coaching. We'll talk about the 12 tenets of transformational coaching in my experience. We'll talk about the elite coaches creed, and finally, we'll talk about the 5 targets of transformation. So obviously, you can see that the word of the day is transformation. And I don't use that word passively or lightly. A transformation is not when people make small changes. A transformation is when people transform their existence, when they transform their relationships, when they transform their lives to where their previous experience is almost unrecognizable, right? It's that kind of a shift. I had that transformation in 2005, and that's why I've been lit up ever since to teach all of this kind of content, and I've witnessed tons of similar kinds of transformations. So that is what this program is all about. And one other thing that I want to say, in this program, I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of my experiences over 11 plus years as a life and business coach. But most of my business coaching is life coaching, because that's really everything. When you break down business, everything has to do with you and who you are. And most of you are solopreneurs. You are your business. So there's no such thing as business coaching without life coaching for the vast majority of people. Having said that, I want you to understand, I do not have an intention to turn any of you into me or any of you into any particular kind of coach. You all come from varying backgrounds. There are some of you that are in business and you want to apply these skills to your leadership, to your recruiting, to the field, right? And you just want to be more influential. There are some of you that want to start a life coaching business and you want to do seminars and create products and you want this to be your whole gig. That's fine. There are some of you that want to take this and apply it to your corporate world. You might have a job right now, a career that you love, and you just want to apply it to that. That's fine. There are some of you that just want to apply it to your personal life. All of that is fine. I am going to go as deep as I know how to go. It's your job to decide how deep you want to go and where you want to apply all of this information. So an analogy that came out of the first round of calls is so brilliant. It actually didn't come from me. It came from a participant. It's about, I forget the context and it doesn't really matter. But in this course, I'm going to teach you how to scuba dive to the depths of the ocean. And what I mean by that is the depths of human behavior, right? We're going to talk about some things that are uncomfortable for some people to talk about. Why? Because humans bring that in their experience. So we'll talk about some traumatic experiences. We'll talk about abuse. We'll talk about things that I've come across in my coaching and my experience on this planet that I want you to at least know about and be ready for if you choose to scuba dive that deep. But not everybody has to do that. Not everybody will feel comfortable doing that. But let me tell you this, if you know how to scuba dive to the depths of the ocean, then you'll be able to go halfway if that's all you want to go. Or you'll be able to stay at the surface and snorkel if that's all you want to do. That's fine. But understand that I'm going to teach the depths of my experience to the best of my ability. And a lot of this course will be about my application experience of this information. It's not just going to be teaching you the techniques. It's not just going to be an intellectual transfer of how-to information from me to you. That stuff is easy to get. What I want to share with you is how to use some of these things. So I'm going to tell you a lot of stories. These stories that I'm going to tell are designed to help you know when to implement certain things. They're designed to help you lower your judgment of yourself. They're designed to help give you more confidence. They are all intentionally designed to benefit you in some way, shape, or form. I promise. I don't ever tell a story just to hear myself talk. So I want you to know from the beginning that a lot of this course will be how to apply this information. I've heard from so many coaches, so many people in various industries that learned the how-to information, but they never learned how to apply. Right? They walked away with a big toolbox of shiny tools, but they didn't know how to use the tools. They didn't know when to use the tools. So part of my intention is to teach you when to use certain tools. And I can only do that through stories. I can't do that through just techniques that I'm going to give you with exercises and tools and so forth, right? And I say that just so you know what's coming up, because some people from time to time get a little frustrated because they feel like, I'm not following the agenda or I'm not following the worksheet or whatever. Listen, the worksheet means nothing. All of this information means nothing if you can't apply it, right? Knowledge without implementation is ignorance. So I'm going to focus on the piece that's actually more important than the knowledge, which is the implementation. And that's why I want all of your questions, all of your judgments, all of your fears, all of that stuff, anything, especially that relates to implementation, give me all of that. And you'll get the most out of this course. So let's get into the handout. This might be record time that we are in the handout only about a half hour into the very first call, because the very first call always has all the welcomes and the housekeeping stuff and all that kind of good stuff. So we are already in the handout, and we're in page 3 of the handout. Now, who cares if page 1 is just the intro page and page 2 is the little table of contents, but page 3, we're jumping right to that right away. What I want you to think about is your answer to what is coaching. There's no wrong answer. I want you to share with me in the webinar. For those of you that are on live, I want you to type in what you think coaching is. Whether you think it's wrong or right, it doesn't matter. Part of human behavior and human processing is expressing whatever's on your mind and hearing yourself talk and typing things in, because there's more ownership with the information. So even if you think it's wrong, I want you to type in, what is coaching to you? If you had to define it or explain it in a short phrase, how would you explain what is coaching? And I'm going to go through some of these. I want you to hear some of them, and some of them is I just want to kind of spark conversation and maybe even spark debate, right? One of the things that I love, by the way, is a good debate. As long as it doesn't get ugly, as long as it stays, above board in terms of decency and there's no name calling and stuff like that, and I don't anticipate any of that happening in this group, as long as it stays above board, I think it's so important to discuss from many different angles anything and everything. So I love debates about religion and about parenting and about pain and about everything that is either deeply vulnerable or sacredly protected about our human experiences, not to try to make people wrong, not to just incite a riot, but just simply to explore. Let's explore everything, because you cannot change anything unless you understand it, and you can't understand it unless you're willing to explore it, right? So this is a safe zone of exploration. And for some of you, you've never been in a virtual room like that. So maybe this is going to be first time and unfamiliar for some of you, and others, you've been you're deep diving in places like this too, before. And so I want us to always have this air of exploration. So let me get into some of the content, or some of the comments that you guys have. Oh, this is some good stuff. Okay. Dana says, Dana or Dana, it might be Dana, guiding a person to be their best at whatever they choose to endeavor. I like it. Carrie says, helping others succeed in an area you excel. Awesome. Kirsten, helping people work through their blocks. Yes, indeed. Sophia, keeping yourself or others moving through psychological barriers. I love that. Helping others find their best self. Donna, I love that too. I love all these. Guiding someone to their answers. That's really important for me. I'll dive into that in a moment. Carol says, asking questions to help others come to their own decisions. Yes, yes, yes. Dana says, helping people find their truth. Hopefully you guys can hear a theme, right? And a lot of you, you know what my position is, because you've been on webinars, or you've heard me in emails or whatever, what I think coaching is. So I'm glad that we've got a lot of similar opinions here. Jamie says, sharing the path with those for whom you hold a lantern. Oh, I love that. Is such a cool image and analogy, Jamie. Thank you for that. Oh, that's good. Kamari says, very similarly, coaching is being a beacon of light that helps illuminate the path for someone else that otherwise may be in the dark. Tandy, holding space for our clients to dissolve their challenges. Cindy, encouraging others through helping them find what they want via leading questions. Yes. Aaron, help people realize their full potential and remove any blocks that stand in their way. Cool. I'm going to stop there. There's tons of comments in here. I'm not going to go through all of them. I think we would find a very similar theme to all of them. And I absolutely agree with everything that you all said. I'm going to give you my thoughts in a second. But before I do, I want to hear what you believe coaching is not. And maybe you draw from personal experience where you've experienced a coach that treated you a certain way that you didn't enjoy, or you've tried to coach people a certain way that didn't work out, or whatever. But I want you to let me know what you believe coaching is not. So Tandy says, lecturing them. Kirsten, telling people what to do. Aaron says the same thing. Telling people what to do and how to do it. Telling others what to do, says Cindy. Not telling people what to do, says Diane. That's 4 in a row. Not telling people what to do. Kathy says, coaching is not therapy or counseling. I like that one. Sheila, back on the what to do train. Telling people what they should do. Answering the question, says Jamie. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? I love that. We'll get into that a lot in these modules. Cindy, demanding someone to see things the way you see them. I like that one. Margaret, telling the person the answer or what they should do or believe. Dana, it's not telling people what to do. Roxana, telling someone they are wrong. That's a really good one. Giving them the answer, says Tandy. Not charging a lot and delivering little. Yes, Antonia, that might be from personal experience, I'm gathering. Coaching is not bribing others what to do. That's fantastic. Sophia says, forcing someone down a path that you believe is correct. Oh, this is so good. All of these are so good. Donna says, it's not telling other people what to do. It's not mentoring. It's not teaching. It's not consulting. And it's not counseling. And it's not therapy, says Kathy. Totally agree with all of those. Coaching is not expecting the way you personally deal with things to work for anyone else. Okay, 3 more here. Coaching is not telling people what to do. Yes, Willie. Coaching is not, oh, I just deleted one on accident. It's not judging. It's not persecuting. It's not imposing your truth on others. Fantastic. So again, everybody has a very similar take with different words and slightly different perspectives, but I agree with all of that stuff. So for me, what is coaching and what is coaching not? Coaching is guiding. Coaching is exploring. Coaching is what we call holding space for other people to find their own truth, as I think Dana said, to find their own answers, to illuminate what was previously in the dark. I think Jamie mentioned that, and somebody else alluded to that as well, maybe Kamari. Coaching is really about guidance and facilitating, right? When I was training to be a teacher, one of the things that I learned, and I just really loved it at the time, and I still believe it's true about coaching as well, is it's, there's a difference between being a sage on stage and being a guide on the side, right? A sage on stage is somebody that wants to be in the spotlight and tell, other people and show the world how smart they are and how brilliant they are. And they're usually looking for confirmation, but a lot of times they do it for the wrong reason, right? And coaching should never be that way. Coaching should be about being a guide on the side. You got to let your ego go, which is not easy, by the way. It's not easy to not answer questions. It's not easy to not jump in and tell people what you think they should do. Anytime that we answer other people's questions, we feel smart. And we are programmed to want to feel smart and not want to feel dumb. So when questions are posed, if we have an answer, we will have a it's like a biological obligation almost. It'll feel like it's an urge that is very difficult to avoid. It's a temptation to want to jump in and answer the question. That's not what you should do as a good coach. There will be times when you have to, because you got to help somebody, and for whatever reason, they're in a funk. They don't know, they've never been in this territory before or whatever, and you do have to do a little bit of answering. But for the most part, 95% of your coaching should be done with exploring, with advocating, with asking questions, with being the guide on the side rather than the sage from the stage. So that's what coaching is, in my opinion. And the good news is it's easier. It's so much easier to do that. Oh my goodness. When I learned some of the things, wait till we get into the tenets here in a moment. When I learned some of these things about what really good coaching is, I can remember the shift that I had in my body. And it was like, hallelujah. It's actually easier to be better. Wow. It's actually easier to be better as a coach. So the most effective coaching is actually easier than what a lot of people will do just because it feels right, or they just fall, they fall to the temptations of answering all the questions like we were talking about before. So what coaching is, if I had to boil it down into one word, it would be curiosity. How can you approach this person's life, their situation, the questions that they have, whatever the challenge is, the struggles? How can you approach it with curiosity? And the good news is curiosity is something that's available to all of us. I don't have to teach you how to be curious. You already have that. It's innate. It's in all of us. It comes pre-programmed, right? It's just that most of us have been taught that it's not okay to ask curious questions, that it might be rude, that you're not supposed, that certain things are inappropriate, right? Well, one of the things that a lot of you will be excited about is you're going to be not only is it okay to re-engage that little childlike curiosity, it's going to be a requirement. So a lot of you are going to experience that you used to shut yourself down when it comes to asking questions that are on the edge of decency sometimes, or questions that are on the edge of appropriateness, right? And of course, I'm not talking about getting into people's personal lives, and I'm not talking about the connotation of decency and appropriate as what some of you might think. But what I'm talking about is exploring things where other people might not want to explore, or questions where you might not know the answer and you might be afraid that they might not know the answer. That's where we have to live in coaching. We have to be on that edge of uncharted territory, and that edge of uncharted territory will bring with it some anxiety for you, some uneasiness, some judgments, some questions, some doubts. All of that is perfect. If you are not questioning yourself, if you're not questioning whether you should ask this particular question or not, if you're not doubting whether this is going to work, if you're not experiencing a lot of those negativities, then you're not coaching good enough. All right. If you're not experiencing all of that negativity, then you're not coaching well enough. You're not advocating strong enough for other people. It's natural. And just because it might feel uncomfortable to you and you might be questioning, is this okay? Now, of course, there will be times when the answer is going to be no, it's not okay. But not often, right? Not often. More often than not, if you have an intuitive hit that says, should I ask this question? That intuitive hit, I believe you should just pretend that that intuitive hit was put into your being by the client. The client said, here's a question that I'm afraid to ask myself. I know it has to be asked, but I'm afraid to ask myself. I've been afraid to ask myself for years and years and years. But if you care enough about me and my transformation, you'll ask it. So go ahead. Let me put it in your psyche. I want you to pretend that every intuitive hit you get was put there by the client, because that'll change the way you perceive your intuitions. And more often than not, whatever you intuitively think you should ask or say is going to be right. So and you'll get much more of what I think coaching is as we go through a lot of the modules, but that's the foundation of coaching and some of the things that I want you to remind yourself of, and some of the judgments that I want you to let go of, right? This coaching journey is a beautiful, painful, scary, anxiety riddled, sacred path to walk down, because it'll bring you face to face with all kinds of stuff that you might not want to touch. And that's fantastic. That's why it's sacred. And so I honor you and applaud all of you for wanting to take this, no matter how you're going to apply this in your business, in your direct sales, as a coaching business specifically, however you're going to apply that. I want you to know you are taking a painfully sacred journey. And it's beautiful if you're willing to do it, right? And you've got a community of incredible support. So without going too deep, I'm just going to pretty much echo what everybody else said of what coaching is not. Coaching is not ego. It's not just trying to pull money out of people or getting people to do what you want them to do. It's not commanding people what to do. It's not giving your solutions to their problems. It's none of that stuff. It's really about being that guide on the side. Now, what is transformational coaching? Because that's what I'm interested in. I'm not just interested in coaching people to make small shifts. Not that that's okay, that's not okay. That's totally okay. I don't have any judgment around that. But I want to make transformational shifts, because that's what I experienced in 2005. And for any of you that don't know my story, I'll tell you the very fast version. In 2005, I was at a business seminar. The lady asked us to do a goals exercise where we wanted to write down what we wanted in our life 90 days or 90 days from now. And I wrote down these goals and I immediately started crying. I had a lump in my throat so big that I literally could not talk, because I came face to face with my fears of what my value is and what I can accomplish in the world, really. And now I know I came face to face with my biggest limiting belief and my biggest fear, that I'm not enough. And thankfully, I had a life coach in the room. One of the co-facilitators walked me outside. I won't tell you all the details of the story now. Maybe I'll save that for another day. Walked me outside, and in a crowded lobby, paced me through a visualization, guided visualization, and he changed my life. And in 15 minutes, I felt lighter. I felt excited. I felt hopeful. It's like I slayed the demon. And it wasn't even a demon that I was aware that I had. I knew it had been lurking for a long time because I hadn't believed in myself, but I really didn't know what it was. And then he helped me address it. And I came home a different person. My wife asked what happened. My friends started asking me what happened. My friends started they're like, do me, do me, do me. Like, whatever happened to you, I want some. I don't care if it's legal, illegal, whatever, because you're different. You're smiling too much. You're having way too much fun. And I want some of that, right? They felt the energetic shift. That's the kind of transformation that I experienced. I didn't even think it was possible before that. But ever since that moment, I've wanted to teach that, and that's what I've been studying. So, transformational coaching is when we go deeper. It's the willingness to scuba dive to depths of the human spirit, of the human soul, of the human psychology, right? So, as this image shows, and we're on now page 4 of your handout, many of us have seen the iceberg, right? The majority of the iceberg is underwater. That's where like 90% or somewhere around there, depending on the studies that you listen to, like 90% of your brain's activity is below the surface. It's at the subconscious or unconscious level. Now, I use subconscious and unconscious interchangeably, so they're basically the same thing. I will generally use unconscious, but it's the same thing. The majority of our brain's power is below the surface. It's the stuff that we cannot see. What's above the surface is the stuff that we can see. So you can see that's the visible stuff. That's generally the behavior. What most people are focused on in their own lives or in the lives of others, if they try to lead people or coach people, is working on the behavior that's seeable, that's visible. Okay, you are a smoker and you want to stop smoking. Let me teach you how to stop smoking. You want to lose weight. Let me teach you how to lose weight. You want to recruit people into your business. Let me teach you how to recruit people into your business. You want to make more money. Let me teach you how to make more money. You want to build a business. Let me teach you how to build a business. You want to blah, blah, blah. Let me teach you how to blah, blah, blah. But here's the problem. That's never the issue. What keeps people from their goals and their biggest dreams is not a how-to deficiency. It's not a lack of how-to information. How-to information is easy to get, especially nowadays with the internet. How-to information is never what's keeping people from their dreams. It's why not to, right? It's, I just started using this phrase about 3 or 4 days ago. I call it emotional activity resistance. That's what's stopping everybody who's being stopped from getting their dreams. It's emotional activity resistance. They have a resistance to doing the activities at an emotional level. It's not that they don't know how to lose weight, it's that they have an emotional resistance to doing the things to lose weight. It's not that they don't know how to quit smoking, it's they have an emotional resistance to doing the things to quit smoking. It's not that they don't know how to do anything. There's an emotional resistance to doing the things. And most people don't know what those emotional resistances are. That's where we come in as coaches, because through the course of this program, I want to teach you everything I've learned. Not that I am the guru on this subject, not that I don't have more stuff to learn, but I've learned a ton in 11 years because I've studied this ferociously for all of those, those years of what makes people do what they do and what makes them not do what they don't do. What is it under the hood, right? Inside the machine, what is it that's actually driving human decisions? And what I'm excited to share with you is that it's not all that complicated. The deeper you go, actually, the more simple it is. That's what I've learned. And that is so exciting. So when you understand the questions to ask, when you understand how all of these things work together, then you'll notice that you can become more powerful with more simplicity rather than all the complexity that people live with above the surface. So above the surface is complicated. I've never really had this analogy, but what just came to me right now is I know all of you've had the scenario where you are above the surface in a pool or in the bathtub or on the in the ocean or something. You're above the surface of the water, right? Above the surface of the water is where all the complexity lives. You can hear all the voices. You can see all of the sights. There's all kinds of distractions. The water is moving up and down. It's splashing against your face. That's where all of the complexion lives. Well, you hold your breath and you go down deep. You go down underwater and almost all the sounds disappear. The sounds that you can hear are usually the sounds that are coming from the depths of the water. And if you do hear them, they've got a different resonance to them. And there's a connection that happens below the surface of the water. And that's really a connection between you and your internal experience of life in that moment. And the world is more simple underwater, isn't it? The world is more simple when we actually go down deeper, and coaching is that way. So if you take a look at this image, what I'm going to teach you is how to recognize some of the above surface stuff, but how to know what to go down deep and address. And for a lot of you, you don't want to be life coaches, which is fine. You don't want to feel like therapists or counselors, which is fine. By the way, let me go back to something that we were discussing a little while ago. I have no judgment toward therapy, toward counseling, toward teaching, toward training. A lot of the things that we said coaching is not, that doesn't mean that those things are bad. That just means that's different than coaching. Therapy is fine when it works, but it's not coaching. Counseling is fine when it works, but it ain't coaching, right? Teaching is fine. Training is fine, but those aren't coaching. So we are just making a distinction here without judgment, what coaching is versus what some other forms of interaction is, right? Coaching to me has the intention of clearing people from their challenges, not coping with the challenges. And I'm going to get deeper into that when we get into the tenets of coaching. So you're not necessarily obligated to go down to the depths of the iceberg. Some of you are just going to be able to ask a single question when people come up against their beliefs or come up against their blocks and their fears. Some of you, in the course of doing your normal business, are going to be able to ask a single question and fundamentally change somebody's perspective. You're going to ask them a question they've never been asked before, they've never considered before. You're going to ask a question that might be intentionally confusing, and just considering the question might cause them to have to put down the way they've been holding on to this problem for decades. And just asking a single question in a single way, you might alter somebody's future. And then some of you are going to want to go, oh, you have this problem? Let's do a 2-hour deep dive coaching session on it. Let me, get clarity on all of this stuff that's happened to you in your life. And let's bring up all kinds of memories and let's go into your childhood. And some of you are going to love that stuff. I personally love that stuff, but you don't have to. Okay. So again, if you understand how to scuba dive, you can continue to snorkel if that's all you want to do. But what I'm going to teach you is all of this below the surface stuff. So transformational coaching is understanding what's happening below the water. And it's not just these 5 things in this image, but those are 5 of the major things that you'll hear about: perceptions, attitudes, values, beliefs, drivers. There's many more. We'll get into them throughout the course of this program. Now, NeuroTransformational coaching is something that I coined a few months ago. And it's because what I want to provide in the world is, as I was talking about earlier, the same kind of neurological shift that I've experienced, right? Now, my journey in the coaching industry was I got certified after that event that I told you about. When I had a personal transformation, I went and got certified in a modality called neuro-linguistic programming. And some of you are familiar with that, and if you're not, don't worry about it. But it's a lot of the foundation of this course. A lot of the materials that I teach are directly from neuro-linguistic programming. But what I've learned ever since then is more than that, right? So I don't only teach inside of the NLP box. I got certified in that, but then I spent a lot of time in other trainers' rooms that don't necessarily teach or live inside of neurolinguistic programming. I spent the majority of my time with Jack Canfield growing up, and he is my mentor in this industry. I've been in countless rooms with countless hours of, countless people, watching what he does, watching the way that other people interact. And I started to do a lot of my own events early on in my career. And so a lot of my coaching, I would like to say, just evolved beyond just the confines of a single modality, right? So it's not just neurolinguistic programming, it's not just psychotherapy, it's not just anything. It's a combination of all of these things, right? So this is my umbrella term called NeuroTransformational coaching, and it means I want people to transform at a neurological level. Because when you make true transformational shifts, the kind that I'm talking about, you will feel it in your neurology. You will feel it in your soul. You will feel it in your bones. Fears that you used to have won't be there anymore. Peace that you never thought was possible will be there now, right? So you're going to be able to feel in your body, in your neurology, transformation. That's what neurotransformational coaching is all about for me. And as I said earlier, I want to teach you all of the application of this modality, not just the intellect, like I'm giving a lecture. Somebody said coaching is not just lecturing, like I'm just giving a lecture and just pacing you through this manual. Okay. So that's the basis of what I do. Um, Part of the essence of neurological programming, which I absolutely love, is the idea that the map is not the territory. And what that means is basically you are deciding what your life looks like and feels like. You are deciding the experiences of your life. So there is a map of the world, let's say, but your experience of the world might not look like the map. And two people can walk through the same exact map and have two different experiences of what the territory was like. Some people might go, wow, that territory was really rocky and bumpy. And other people might go, that territory was super smooth and easy to navigate. And yet it's the same exact map. And so the essence is we choose our experiences on the planet. And that's the core philosophy of neurolinguistic programming, the core philosophy of really good coaching, I believe. We're going to get into something called the internal representation. So how do we create those experiences of the planet? And at a base level, we do it through our five senses. Visual is what we see, auditory is what we hear, internal and kinesthetic is what we feel. Sometimes that's a physical feeling sensation, or sometimes that's an internal feeling sensation, like intuition and stuff. Olfactory is what we smell, and gustatory is what we taste. Now, we will generally stay in the first three realms inside coaching. I don't usually do a whole lot with people's sense of smell or sense of taste, although it comes up every now and then. But mostly we're going to be looking at what are people seeing, what are they imagining internally, what are they hearing, what are they saying to themselves, and what are they feeling internally and externally, right? So let's get into some of these tenets of transformational coaching. And this stuff I get so excited about because this is the foundation of everything, right? It's like you need a solid foundation to build a house, and you need a solid philosophical foundation to be a good coach. So over the course of my career, I've come up with 12 what I call tenets of transformational coaching. These are like the pillars that you've got to stand upon. They're in no order. None of these are necessarily more important than the others. But the first one on the list is that coaching is all about forward momentum. And one of the things I love to say, and I'll remind you of this throughout the course of our interaction together, never poo-poo progress. Never poo-poo progress with yourself or with a client. Any progress is good. Any progress is forward momentum. Now, you might know as a coach or as a leader, you might know that, there are 12 chapters to progress through in a certain journey or a certain book, let's say, that somebody's experiencing. And you might have a coaching interaction, or you might witness that somebody only got partway through the first chapter. Do not make them feel like they have not made progress just because there are 11 and a half more chapters to go. You've got to focus that they are a half chapter further than when they started. One thing that I've learned about human psychology is If you want the human spirit to continue going forward, then focus on how far it's already come. Whether it is a small amount or a super significant amount, the human spirit does not like to feel as though it hasn't made any progress and it still has miles to go. Yet that's the way we are generally programmed in society. We always focus on deficiencies instead of focusing on progress. So, as a coach, you have to, especially based on what I just said, because most people are not getting it anywhere else, we have to help people focus on progress. You've done a good job. I was just on the phone with a client today, and she was experiencing, I was teaching her how to do the total truth letter, which is something that we'll get into, I believe, in the next module. And she was hiccuping, right? Like she was just reaching these blocks, and she was judging herself, and she was thinking she was doing it wrong. And I spent a good majority of our coaching call today telling her that she's made progress, telling her that what she's experiencing is not only okay, it's common and it's positive, right? And it was very calming for her to hear that what she's doing is actually forward momentum, because that's not the story that she was telling herself. So a lot of times that's what we will be as a coach, as an advocate for them to realize they're doing a good job. One of the messages that most of us don't hear enough is that one right there. I don't think I've ever focused on this before. It just hit me right now harder than it's ever hit me. Most of us want to know you're doing a good job. You're doing good. Some version of that. We want to know that. We want to know that from our parents. We want to know that from our mentors. We want to know that from our teachers. But ultimately, we want to know that from ourselves. You're doing a good job. So a lot of times we have to provide that message for our clients and never, ever, ever poo-poo progress. If we've made progress, let's celebrate it. Right. Carrie says most of us never hear that. So true. Most of us never hear that. Second one, keep people at choice. One of the core philosophies in this kind of coaching, and for me in particular, is that you have to have 100% responsibility about everything in your life. Choice is not the same as blame. Choice is about responsibility, which means the ability to respond. Choice is about making people feel empowered. Even in difficult situations, you can still stay empowered knowing that you have a choice. One of the worst things for the human psychology and specifically the unconscious mind to feel is like it has no choice. Because if you don't have a choice, then you're a victim. And none of us likes to feel like a victim. So what we got to do as coaches is always keep people at choice. If we see that they are blaming others, we got to jump in and stop them and help them assume responsibility again. Now, that doesn't mean blame, but assume responsibility. Okay, these are the cards you've been dealt. How can we play this hand? That's responsibility in a healthy way. It's not beating people across the knuckles with the ruler. You're bad because look at the hand that you've been dealt. It's none of that kind of disempowering or enabling conversation, but it's always responsibility. And obviously, you've got to adopt these principles yourself also. And there's never a situation where you don't have at least two choices, ever. And most of the time, you have many, many choices. But a lot of people don't notice the choices that they have because they believe they don't have a choice. They walk through life thinking that everything that happens to them, instead of believing that everything that happens for them or happens for the greater good, or everything that happens is an opportunity to make different choices or confirm their previous choices, whatever it is. But if you have a belief that choices are abundant, then you will find them. If you have a belief that choices are in lack, that everybody does things to you, and you don't ever have a choice and you just have to go along with what life is doing to you or what other people are doing to you, then you won't even see some of the choices that are screaming at you. So we have to keep people, and we have to keep ourselves at choice and in 100% responsibility. A related concept to that is to focus on actions and controllable activities. Don't focus only on outcomes, all right? So if somebody wants to lose weight, what are the activities that they need to follow that are controllable to them that will probably allow them to lose weight? If somebody wants to make more money, what are the activities they can follow that will probably lead to making more money? Whatever the outcome is, we can't just focus on the outcome, right? I think we are taught as a society that we are like drug sniffing dogs. That, with drug sniffing dogs, what happens is they're given a scent, right? They're given a smell of whatever drug that they're looking for, or for dogs that are trying to find missing people, they give them a piece of their clothing, right? And they're saying, okay, here's the smell that I want you to search for. Go. That works for drug sniffing dogs and for missing persons dogs. It doesn't work for most humans. The way we think is that if we have a certain goal, all we got to do is focus on the goal, think about the way the goal will feel, and then just do everything we can to go get the goal. That works for some people, but it doesn't work for the vast majority of people. So we can't just feed them the goal and say, go. We have to focus on what the next step is. So here's where you are right now. There's where you want to be. What's the very next step that you can take? And if you keep people focused on the very next step, it'll be much easier for them to keep in motion, for them to stay in motion, for them to keep leaning forward instead of focusing on the 40 steps that are ahead of them, because for most people that would actually shut them down. And when we focus on these activities, we got to focus on things that are controllable to them. So we do a lot of coaching in my company for people who are solopreneurs in direct sales, home-based businesses, and we help them all the time focus on how many phone calls do you have to make? How many people do you need to reach out and actually talk to? Right? What are the outreach activities? If you're trying to build a coaching business, what are the things you can do? How many people can you outreach? How many emails can you send to certain people? How many phone calls can you make to reach out to people? Marketing and creating any kind of exposure is fundamentally simple. You need to expose whatever your opportunity is to as many people as possible. And most people are not doing those things. So we need to break it down and say, what is the very next step that you and only you can control that you can do? So we're not focused on whether people answer the call. We're not focused on whether people actually show up, although of course, we're going to track that, but we're not going to be focused on that as a sign of success or failure. In other words, if you reach out to people and they don't respond, that does not mean you failed. You succeeded by reaching out to people, because here's what I know: it's impossible to get your goals unless you do these activities. So what I've learned is that most people need to focus on the activities and make that the actual target and let the results happen, because the results are a byproduct of doing the activities. So as a coach, we want to help people focus on doing the activities. Now, you might have a client or you might have a team member once in a blue moon show up that doesn't need that. They operate more like the drug sniffing dogs, and all they need to do is have a clear target and they're just going to go. I don't have anything negative to say about those people. It's just that they are uncommon. You won't find them very often. And most of you are not like that. You've got to focus on the next step right in front of you that's not going to engage all of your beliefs and all of your inner game struggles, right? So we're always going to focus on controllable success. The next tenet here, this is a gigantic one. We have to separate person from performer. We in society have been programmed that our value as a person is determined by our accomplishments. Even though that's not the exact language we are given all the time, that's the message. Who gets all the accolades? People who are super successful. Who makes more money? People who are really successful. Who are the mentors or the celebrities? People who have the biggest accomplishments, people who look staggeringly beautiful, right? We are taught in society that our accomplishments will determine our value. They will determine whether people are interested in us. They will determine whether people want us. And that is a very, very unhealthy connection. Who you are as a person is not determined by what you accomplish as a performer. Your performance does not determine your self-worth. Even though most of us, whether you're aware of it or not, thinks it does. And here's how you'll know if you think it does. If you think about reaching out to people, but you're afraid because they might say no, or if you think about going for a certain goal, but you're afraid because you might fail, if you think about the negative emotional consequences of not achieving something, then you have this connection. If you, and by the way, I have it. I'm not saying that I've solved all these things. My hand is raised right now, like literally it's raised right now, saying that this is still something that I know about myself, right? I've worked tremendously on it, but I still got it. It's tough not to, because this is society's programming. But if you think about going after a certain goal or reaching out to a certain person or making a phone call or whatever, and you're afraid of doing that, what's happening at a deeper level is your unconscious mind is thinking about how you're going to feel if you fail. So what you're actually afraid of is not the failure. You're afraid of the self-abuse after the failure. You're afraid of what you're going to feel like when you don't achieve what it is that you want to achieve, but you have to understand that how you feel is completely 100% caused by you and what you say to yourself. So what you're actually afraid of is the feeling. You're not afraid of the rejection. You're afraid of the feeling. And the only reason you would beat yourself up after a certain result is if you are holding on to some connection to or some belief that it's shameful to fail. That's where the self-abuse comes from. Some form of shame. Shame on you. You should have done this. You shouldn't have done that. If you were better as a human being, you wouldn't have failed like that. Even though that might not be the exact language that we use, that is the exact message that we are sending to ourselves. And what that's telling us is we are not okay as a person if we fail. If this is landing with any of you personally, because you can recognize this, then on the webinar here, if you're on live with us on the webinar, then type this in. And just type in, this is me, or this resonates with me. Just let me know. And I want you to claim that as true for you. Now, fortunately, we can work on shifting this to where it doesn't have the control on us. But because this is society's message for pretty much all of us, most people have a connection between their value as a person and their performance. But here's what I've learned. When your value as a person is not connected to your performance, you will perform better. When you remove the emotional risk of failure, you will remove the emotional resistance to effort. I've never put that together like that. I'm going to say that again because that's pretty simple and it's very profound. When you remove the emotional risk of failing, you will remove the emotional resistance to efforting, to trying. And the only way you're ever going to get anything is by trying, is by doing the activities, right? Remember, that's emotional activity resistance. So when you remove the emotional risk, then you remove the resistance. If asking somebody for something has no possibility of making you feel bad, then you won't be afraid to ask them. It's only when there's a possibility that you're going to feel bad based on whatever they say that you're going to be afraid of taking the action. So when you remove your emotional value, your self-worth from the table, when nobody else can touch your self-worth because you didn't offer it to them to take or add to, you can't be afraid anymore. Like, you literally biologically cannot create fear of something that does not have a negative emotional risk associated to it. You cannot be afraid of two versions of the right answer. You can only be afraid if you've told yourself that there's a wrong answer here or there's a wrong outcome, and that's because of the emotional risk. So the way that we deal with this at a deeper level is removing the connection between person and performance. Now, ultimately, the person that we need unconditional love from and acceptance is ourself. So a lot of the work that we teach people how to do is mirror work. It's clearing some of their own limiting beliefs, clearing their relationship and healing their relationship with self. Because if you can be rock solid in your most important relationship, at least in the human realm, which is you with you, then everything else that happens outside of that becomes infinitely less powerful over you. So that's person versus performance. And again, with all these things, we're going to keep diving deeper and deeper as we go through a lot of these modules. The next one is implementation and measurement. What that means is when we focus on actions and controllable activities, we're going to place value on implementation. It's the same concept, or similar at least, to never poo-pooing progress and celebrating implementation. Even if the implementation doesn't provide the result that you wanted or that they wanted, you still tried. You've got to celebrate the effort if you want more effort. Whatever gets focused on is generally going to get repeated, or it's going to get more value. So if you focus on the failure, then that's where all of the attention is going to be given, and most people will try to avoid the feeling of failure. If you focus on celebrating the effort, whether the outcome was what you wanted it to be or not, you won because you efforted. You won because you implemented. But now, we're also never wanting to take our eyes off of the intended target, though. So we want to measure the result, the outcomes of the implementation. And if we're not getting what we want, well, then we need to change the implementation a little bit, right? If you're not getting what you want out of the oven, then you need to change the recipe. But you don't need to focus on it with the emotional attachment that I just spoke to. You don't need to focus on it with the desperation energy. You just change the recipe. It doesn't have to be any more emotionally complicated than that. Oh, I don't like the way the cake tastes that keeps coming out of the oven. Well, then I should change something in the recipe. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep getting the same tasting cake if you follow the same recipe over and over and over again. So just because we are going to focus a lot on the internal game does not mean that we ever want to take our focus off of the external tangible game. Our goal as coaches is to guide people toward the targets that they want. So we always have to use that as a measuring stick. It's just that whenever appropriate, we've got to go below the surface so that we can help them hit those targets, right? That's great coaching, in my opinion, knowing when and knowing how to dip below the surface or rise back up to the surface in order to achieve the common goal, which is to hit the target, whatever the target is. This next one is more of an energetic, almost like an affirmation for you. I want you to always focus during your coaching, during your leadership, during your interactions on presence and connection. I want you to be present with the person. I want you to listen to understand. I don't want you to listen to respond. Every time that you're formulating a response in your head, in that moment, you're not listening anymore, because the brain cannot listen and create at the exact same time. Now, you can go back and forth very rapidly because the brain is immensely powerful, but in that moment, you're not listening if you're using your focus to create something like a response, right? So we want to do more listening than responding. The more practice you get, the easier it will be for your creating to happen almost on its own, like autopilot, or you're going to be able to create very quickly your responses. But I don't want you to be doing that while people are talking as much as possible, right? And when you are present, a ton of the coaching work is being done. You're creating connection with them. You're connecting with their model of the world, something that we'll get into when we get into the Ignite formula. You're connecting with their authenticity. You're connecting with their humanity. You're connecting with their emotions. And that kind of connection is important for you to advocate later. So always, always, always check in and make sure that you are being present and you are connecting as much as possible. And a lot of coaching, I promise you, is intuitive. A lot of the most profound coaching you'll ever do will not be anything that I teach you in this course. It will come from an intuitive place, just a pure knowledge of how to deal with human people, right? Human people, how to deal with human beings if you're present with them. Here's the cool thing. We all have coaches inside of us. It's just most of us don't unlock our coaching powers because we're focused on rules or we're focused on fears or we haven't cleared our own internal stuff or whatever. But a lot of being a great coach is just allowing yourself to tap into the resources you already have that are already brilliant coaches, okay? This next bullet, I've already alluded to it a little bit. It's the dance between tangible and intangible. Tangible are the things that we can measure and observe. Tangibles are money or titles or numbers on the scale, right? Anything that's measurable and observable is tangible. Most of society is focused on tangible successes or tangible failures. But fulfillment happens at the intangible level. Fulfillment happens at the intangible level. Tangible success does not create happiness. Tangible failure does not create misery. Happiness and misery are created at the intangible level. And this perpetual conflict will show up constantly in our discussions. Tangible versus intangible is head versus heart. It's intellect versus emotion. It's your knowledge of the rules of what to do versus your intuition saying, why don't we just try this? There's this perpetual dichotomous conflict, one side versus the other, that we are going to constantly navigate through in our coaching with ourselves and with our clients or with our people that we are leading. So that is going to be a theme that you'll notice constantly. And all of the solutions are at the intangible level, right? All the courage, all the things that people actually want to experience are at the intangible level. Again, that's where the simplicity lies. All right, one really important piece about coaching is to always leave them on a high note. And I would also say always start them on a high note. Start your coaching interactions, whether they're official coaching interactions or unofficial leadership conversations or however they show up, start them on a high note and end them on a high note whenever possible. Whenever possible, you want people to go into the coaching conversations in a positive space, and you want them to leave with a positive space. You want people to really enjoy connecting with you. You don't want people to feel like every time they talk to you, they walk away feeling like a loser. They walk away feeling negative, or they just walk away, feeling disempowered. You always want people to enter your space and to leave your space feeling empowered and feeling hopeful. And trust me, you can do that even if they walk out of your space still holding on to certain circumstantial or internal problems. Just because a problem hasn't been fully solved doesn't mean somebody can't be hopeful. And one of the ways you let people leave on a high note, well, not just one of the ways, it's everything we're talking about. It's the presence and the connection and listening to understand and I mean all that stuff. It's everything that we've been talking about is going to give people a positive experience. Now, positive doesn't always mean fun, but positive means hopeful. It means empowered. Sometimes it means swallowing a bitter pill, but it's responsibility. So always leave them on a high note. The goal is independence. I believe that good coaches create independence. Good coaches don't create dependency. Good leaders don't create dependency. And we're not coming from a place of ego saying, I want to create independent people so they stop bothering me. No, that's not what we're after. We're coming from a place of empowerment saying, I want to create independence because I know the human spirit is powerful and I want to help people tap into their own resources so that they don't need me. If they want me, I'm here, but I don't want them to need me. That's one of the fundamental principles of coaching that I think makes it different from other modalities or other, certain experiences that other people have had. And this is what I alluded to earlier. It's the difference between clearing and coping. I want you to help people clear their problems, not cope with them. The next one, actions and outcomes. I don't like to use the labels good or bad, success or failure. I like to focus on actions and outcomes. And I've already kind of jumped ahead and talked about this earlier when I was mentioning the recipes. What actions did you take? What action did you get? I'm sorry, what outcome did you get? I don't even like to use the word results, although results and outcomes are interchangeable for me, but results usually for most people means positive. It has a positive connotation. Outcomes doesn't. Outcomes is negative. You have an outcome. Somebody either says yes or they say no. Those are the two outcomes. So if you don't like the outcome, then change the action. It's what I said earlier. Change the recipe if you're not liking what you're achieving, right? But we want to remove all of the good and bad, positive and negative labels when it comes to activities, because that's one of the reasons why people don't do things. They don't want to do the wrong thing or they don't want to do the bad thing. And we just got to be as much as possible neutral toward our activities. And this is one of the ways to do it. We just become almost scientific. Okay, what did you do and what did you get? If you don't like what you got, then let's change what you did. Period, right? The penultimate one here, I mentioned this word once or twice already. Be ferociously curious. Good coaches are asking machines. They are not answering machines. Most people's egos want to be answering machines. Here, ask me a question so I can answer it and prove to you how smart I am. Or prove to me how smart I am. I said earlier that there's a temptation we all pretty much have to answer any questions that other people give us. In your coaching, you're going to have to resist that temptation as often as you can, unless there's no other way to make progress with this particular interaction with this client or this team member or whatever, is if you give them a little bit of information. But when you do it almost reluctantly, and you do it in the spirit of dropping breadcrumbs so that they continue to move forward. But you don't just deliver the cake to them, right? Teach them how to get there. So ferocious curiosity is going to be your best trait. As I said a moment ago, none of you are missing that. You just have to give yourself permission and learn how to use that. And finally, this tenet, from a coaching perspective, is probably the most significant for me. Because I used to be the guy that would always try to formulate my answers to people's problems when they gave them to me. I would always be in my head going, okay, I'm going to do this exercise and then I'm going to do that exercise and they're going to say this and oh, it's going to be so good. This is when they're going to start crying. And as soon as they start crying, I'm going to do this. And then I was orchestrating the whole thing. And when I was orchestrating this whole thing, I wasn't paying attention anymore. And when I was orchestrating this whole thing, I was attaching expectations that that was the right way for this person to experience whatever it is that I've just decided, like I'm playing God, they are supposed to experience. And never once did my orchestration play out the way I had it in my mind. Never once. And many of you have experienced this, right? Every time you try to orchestrate what the next scenes are supposed to look like, and you happen to have human beings in those scenes, it'll never work out. It usually takes the very first thing that somebody does or says to go off the script that you just created in your head, right? So it never worked out for me the way I wanted it to, but more importantly, I wasn't present and I wasn't connected in that moment until I got this, and it allowed me to drop that whole thing almost completely immediately. When you understand that whoever has the problem has the solution, then you don't need to bring your own solution. Not only do you not need to bring it, you shouldn't, because your solution will not solve their problem the same way their solution would. And good coaches have the ability to ask questions and get the same thing that they would have said to come out of the client's mouth. That's what good coaching is a lot of the times. I know what I think they need to say, but instead of me giving it to them, I'm just going to get ferociously curious and ask questions and try to guide them to say it themselves. Because whatever comes out of my mouth can be challenged. Whatever comes out of their mouth is the truth. Whatever comes out of their mouth is gospel according to their life, and whatever comes out of their mouth will be more memorable for them. So not only is it more difficult for me to try to solve their problems, it's disrespectful of me to try to solve their problems. And I'll go so far to say, as a coach, it's irresponsible of me to try to solve their problems. Because if I really want to create independence, then I don't want them to try to have to remember what I gave them. Their solutions are coming from their neurology. They will remember. They will remember the affirmations that come from their own soul. They will remember the reframing that comes from their own intellect, their own brain. They will remember the solutions. Why? Because a solution that I give them is introducing new information to their brain. Hang on a sec. Hold on a sec. So anything I give to them is introducing new information, hoping that they'll hold on to it, that they'll agree with it, first of all, and that they'll hold on to it. Asking questions is not introducing any information. It's just exploring for what they already have in their neurology, in their memory, in their brain. And it's just highlighting what's already there. And highlighting what's already there will always be more powerful and more profound and more memorable, and they will be more committed to it than asking them to be committed to something that we introduce for them. On very rare occasion, you will have to introduce something new, but usually not. And I want you to reluctantly go there. Like, I want you to try all avenues first before you go, okay, I'm going to introduce something for you. I want your mission to be to use your ferocious curiosity and your faith that whoever holds the problem also holds the solution. So if they tied the knots, they are the ones that are going to be able to untie them way better, way more efficiently, way more effectively than you could. And that takes faith in the human spirit. So that tenet right there changed the game for me. Oh my goodness, it was so exciting. But you know what else? When I stopped expecting myself to solve other people's problems, my access to solutions became infinitely greater. Because it was like I was tapping into almost like a Wi-Fi network of wisdom that was beyond me. It was almost like I was tapping into their wisdom and the wisdom from their mentors and their resources and the wisdom of my mentors and my resources and my network of people. It wasn't just coming out of my ego brain in that moment. I was tapping into a source of much higher wisdom. And sometimes I'll tell you, the the stuff that comes out of my mouth when I'm not pre-forming it is profound. And I'm not saying that with ego. I'm saying like cuz I'm hearing it for the first time too. I'm not formulating it ahead of time going, "Hey, my ego is so smart. Let me wow them with this." I'm just staying connected and present. My ferocious curiosity is going, "Let me ask this question and let me say this." And sometimes I go, "Whoa. I never heard that before." Because I'm tapped into a different energy, and all of us can tap into that. The way to do it is let our ego down and stop trying to solve their solutions or try to solve their solutions or problems rather with our solutions in the first place. So those are the 12 tenets of coaching. This is the foundational stuff that we are going to then add all of the exercises and tools on top of as we go through this course. But I'll tell you, that is the majority of it. I promise you, that is the majority of it. It doesn't matter how you use your tools as much as the spirit in which you use those tools, right? It's not the how to. It's not, can I ask these certain questions? Can I lead people through this certain exercise? It's about how can I advocate for them? And so if you stay close to those 12 tenets, I suggest you go back and listen to this again. I suggest you talk to your partner coach about this again. I suggest you remind yourself about these things over and over and over again. I'm telling you, at least half of your coaching power will be taken care of inside of those 12 tenets. So that's the majority of this module. I developed this thing called the Elite Coaches Creed. Elite is a powerful word for me. It's in the title of so many of our brands. And elite to me is not about being better than anybody else. It's about being the best version of yourself. And everybody wants to be the most elite version of themselves. So to me, we made an acronym, and what elite stands for is empowerment always, never discouraging, never enabling, always empowering in our language, in our words, in our energy, in everything that we do. You have to be a stand for empowerment. The second one is leadership. Leadership looks different depending on where you are, depending on who you're with, depending on the circumstances, but always be a leader, and you cannot be a leader to others unless and until you are a leader to yourself. So the majority of this game is about self-leadership as much as it is about others' leadership. The I is a word that literally jolts me, right? Like I feel this word of integrity. Integrity means so many different things, but the actual definition of it is whole and complete. So it's about maintaining integrity for other people. It's about believing in the integrity of the universe, in the integrity of the human spirit. It's about believing in the integrity of yourself. It's about holding true to your word. It's about doing the things that you say you're going to do simply because you said you were going to do them, not because you feel like doing them. And being an advocate for everybody else to stay in integrity with themselves and with their word and with their values and with their spirit as well. Some of the most uncomfortable things that you're going to have to do as a coach or as a leader is to highlight when people are out of integrity with themselves. And you're not going to do it in a demeaning, disingenuous or discouraging way. You're going to do it with love, with integrity, with advocacy, and just shine a light. That, you know what, right now, I think in this area of your life, I'm just going to ask you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to ask you, are you in integrity? And at least then you give them the ability to say no or yes. Either way, they're at choice, right? The T stands for truth. That can have all kinds of applications. That can be staying true to what you believe in. That does not mean holding on to a universal idea of what's true and what should be true for everybody else, because I believe that truth is mostly opinion. The way most of us are holding on to truth and what feels true to most of us is simply a collection of opinions, because my truth doesn't have to be your truth and vice versa. And when you really understand that and you hold on to that, life becomes limitless, and you become basically unoffendable. And then the final E, the second E, stands for excuse me, excellence. Right? Excellence with everything. Not perfection, but excellence. We can all strive for excellence, but we can't strive for perfection. So this last piece here, it's kind of in summary of the image of the iceberg, and this is just going to set the stage of what we're going to do going forward. Our job as transformational coaches is to focus on 5 main targets. Then I'm going to add an additional thing that I want you to write on your handout here. Above the surface, I mentioned earlier behaviors, but I want to throw onto that language, because those are the things that we can obviously see. We can hear the language that people use. We can explore the language that they have internally with their head talks, etc., or head talk. And obviously, we can focus on the behaviors. So that's the observable stuff above the surface. We're going to use that, though, as clues to what's going on below the surface. Below the surface, we're going to get into drivers, we're going to get into beliefs. Ultimately, we want to help people touch and fall in love with and connect and protect their core self. That's where all of the answers are. Most of personal development is about unbecoming. It's not about becoming anybody new. It's not about adding to anything that's not already there. It's about unbecoming. It's about shedding the layers that we've picked up along the way. And when we do that, we just dive deeper into the resources that we already have, and we connect deeper with the core self that we already are. That is a fundamental belief of NeuroTransformational coaching, and that's where the answers are. That's where the deepest solutions are. Most people's biggest fears are tied to their core self, but that also means their biggest breakthroughs will be there as well. So if you want to scuba dive with people and you want to help fundamentally change people's lives, that's where we're going to go. The final thing I want to talk about is this piece that I've just really focused on over the last few months. I've noticed how important experiences are. And what I mean by that is experiences on the planet get lodged in our neurology. And what we do as coaches is we help people move through their fears. But what we have to understand is their fears, the biggest ones, are experiential, right? So let's say I am your client and you're wanting to help me achieve a certain accomplishment in my life, whatever that is, right? It doesn't matter what it is. The fears that are standing in between me and my dreams are based on experiences that have already happened to me. But that dream is theoretical. I haven't gotten it yet. And if I have achieved that level, I haven't stayed there. So it's still theoretical. Either the achievement of the goal or the maintaining of the goal is theoretical. So everything we are going for is theory. Yet everything we're afraid of is reality. Even if the fears that we're holding on to are ridiculous fears, they're still based in reality. So a lot of times, pretty much all the time, we over exaggerate our fears. We tend to universalize our fears, and the fears that we have a lot of times have no basis in reality the way that we're holding on to them. But the stem, if you go down deep, the seed to all of our fears is based in something that actually happened, something that we either experienced or witnessed. But I would say 99% of the time, our biggest fears are based in an experience that we have lodged in our neurology. So you can be the best motivational coach on the planet. You can create the most soundproof, waterproof, foolproof, intellectual solution to this person's problems that's ever been created in the history of the world. And still, experiences way more than theory. That's what we have to understand as coaches. That's why we got to be willing to get in there and play the experiential game. That's why a lot of the things that we do is helping people experience theory with neurological. I'm trying to not use the word experience, but it's the only thing that's coming to me. So we want people to have a neurological experience of their theoretical dreams. And I don't mean theoretical in terms they can't be done. I mean theoretical in terms of what I said earlier. They're based on theory. So we always have to navigate the experiential reality of the human journey and understand that experiences speak louder. Experiences weigh more. That's why all of us, myself included, we've all had a situation where we knew exactly what to do. We knew if we did it, we would succeed. And yet, for some reason, we just don't do it. It's because your experiential fears are overpowering your theoretical knowledge. That's why. That's head versus heart. Your head is winning the battle because your head yells while your heart whispers. That's what's happening. So we have to be aware of experiential truth for the human condition, both with ourselves and obviously with other people. So on your paper, this wasn't included, but you can see it in the slides. On your paper, I want you to write also experiences, and I want you to highlight it or circle it or underline it or write it in a different color, because we're always going to have to navigate that piece. So we talked a lot on this module about the foundational stuff. I promise you, some of the things that I already covered in this module are what you're going to have to remind yourself of when the anxiety kicks in, when the fears kick in, when the doubts kick in. You're going to have to remember, oh yeah, I can't solve their problems anyway, so let me let that fear go of not being able to say the right thing. You can't say the right thing. You can't say the wrong thing. You can just be present and be a channel and be a guide on the side, because it's what comes out of their mouth anyway, right? So I promise you, some of these things that we talked about in this module will be the most transformational awarenesses and reminders for you in your coaching journey, leadership journey, whatever that looks like. So we've gone on for a couple hours. We generally will not always go for a couple hours. I'm not going to say we never will again, but a large chunk of this, if you remember, if you were on at the beginning, was housekeeping and welcoming and setting the stage and, you know, my excitement coming out, etc. Usually these modules are going to be right around an hour and a half or so, give or take, depending on what comes up. I generally want to answer any questions that you may have. So if you have a question right now, I'm only going to stick around for maybe 5 or 10 minutes on this particular module because we've already gone on for so long. But I will answer your question somehow, whether it's on Facebook or in another session or some way. But if you do have a question about the content or the application of the content or anything at all, go ahead and type it in right now on the webinar, and I will try to sift through some of this stuff. I know I got a lot of comments that I didn't respond to, and if there were specific questions, I said earlier, please don't use that as judgment that, you know, I don't like you or I think the question is dumb or whatever. Just send it to me again. If it's a question that you want answered, send it to me again or post it on Facebook and tag me if you can. So let me go through some of these comments. All right. Somebody says, I have an accountability partner from the last session. We get along great, but I think we are too easy on each other. So I think it'd be better for us to try to continue. Do you think? So I think it would be better for us to continue our relationship, but have someone new as a partner coach. What are your thoughts? Yes, I agree. If you have the sense that you guys are too easy on each other, then then break it up and introduce a different relationship, because it's really hard to get back into, like, to break a precedent of a relationship that's already been established. You can keep that other relationship going and use it for what it's valuable for, but for this course I would get a different partner. Will we learn when it's okay to just give a quick answer because it is not a coaching session and just an information question? Yes. As much as I went on and on and on about coaching is not answering questions and you want to guide from the side as much as possible, it's not like you're not going to become this irritating person that will never answer a question. I don't want you to take it literally to that degree. So, yes, there are times where we just answer the questions. There are times when you only have 60 seconds with somebody, so you're not going to get into this ferociously curious asking session. You're just going to answer the question and then maybe address it at a later conversation or whatever. So, there are no rules. I don't believe in rules when it comes to coaching or human behavior. I don't believe in rules when it comes to anything related to human beings. I believe in laws. So, there are laws that pertain to coaching, and you're going to be able to use those laws when appropriate. So I don't want you to take anything that I said as a set of rules. I want you to take everything that I said as a set of laws and then break them, or you never break the laws, because anytime that you choose to answer a question, you're still using one of those laws. You're just using it to answer a question instead of using it to ask a question, right? So you always want to do everything that you can based on your intentions and based on what you think is going to be better for this conversation, for the client, or whatever. And sometimes, yes, the answer is going to be just give them the answer, right? Because that's all they need right now. It's something simple. It is just an intellectual exchange, and that's fine. And just go with it. Somebody asked earlier, what is the tangible? Is the tangible the head or the tangible the heart? The tangible is aligned with the head. The head is concerned about tangible outcomes, tangible successes, tangible failures, tangible fears. All that stuff is the head's game. All right. If there's any other questions that I can answer right now, then I will. And I'm going to stick around and answer a couple questions just privately. If I don't, I'm going to go back. So I'm going to, when I end the webinar in a moment, I'm going to stick around. So some of you, if you've asked a question that you really want an answer to, and you said it was private or something like that, I'll just go ahead and answer in the webinar. So so stick around, and we'll do it that way. All right, cool. So most of these comments that I'm seeing are from before. They're conversations. They were answering some of the questions before. So again, if you have anything that I didn't address, then take it to Facebook. I would love for the comments and the questions to be public so everybody else can enjoy and participate, contribute to the conversation as much as possible. So with that, everyone, hopefully this first session was valuable to you. Our next session is coming up quick, obviously, as you know, for those of you that are going through the live training and you've seen the schedule. So I will see you on the second session. And if there's anything I can do to make your experience more valuable, more enjoyable in any way, then please let me know. Take care, everyone. I will see you on module number 2.